Hi, it's Gordon Garner from the Community Addiction Peer Support Association. I want to have a conversation with you today about peers we have in police services or police service members and their families. Suffering in silence, unable to identify what's going on.
My brother had too much of the wrong help and not enough of the right help. It impacted his willingness to seek treatment and then left him alone when he passed. Co-occurring mental health and substance use disorder can present even greater challenges to the person working on their own health and wellness and on our communities on how to help them. When you add in discrimination and all too often criminalization for personal possession, as in my brother's case, the doors close even if pulled on.
The brother whom I grew up with developed an addiction in his youth. He didn't choose addiction, it was fun, then it wasn't, and he couldn't stop. That's when I treated him like I was told by society, harshly for what I saw as his choice, not compassionately for his health condition and his compromised ability to choose. He died, I believe, needlessly because of how our society treated him when he got unwell. We have been confused for years that consequences changes behaviors. The truth of the diagnosis of substance use disorder is most clear. The behavior continues despite the consequences. So our society's insistence of using consequences on people whose mental health diagnosis is based on the lack of a healthy responses to suffering says much about us as a society. In some tragic way, it mirrors the struggle of people with substance use disorder, unable to change their behavior despite negative results.
I'd like to speak to you about some challenges I faced with stigma and managing my substance use disorder. Where I work, we have a unique subculture, and almost by necessity, we're questioned on everything we do, not only externally by courts, media, the public, but internally. And unfortunately, it's truthful for me to say this to you, we're very, very hard on each other. Your competence as a police officer and your ability to solve complex problems are held in high regard. And if you fail to meet that mark in any capacity, it's almost a guarantee you're going to be criticized internally. That's why it was really difficult for me to look myself in the mirror and start to be honest with myself and recognize that I couldn't do it anymore. So I spent a large portion of the beginning of my career self-medicating, substance use disorder. And it took a long time to get to the point where I realized that I needed help and I didn't really know where to go. If I come out and say I'm weak, I need help, it's kind of contrary to the image I'm supposed to be projecting in the uniform, that I can help you, you know? I'll give you an example. So we do have some support groups internally. We have some that are run by our organization, but there are some that are peer-driven, where we look after each other. And one of the groups I used, we go by the name called Badge of Courage, because of the courage it takes in my environment, in my subculture, to expose yourself and just simply to ask for help.
I sit before you as an ex-police officer who once actively sought out those who use drugs. I judge them all as criminals, and I reinforce the stigma, the guilt and shame that comes with drug use. I also sit before you as a person in recovery from alcohol and other drugs, one of the millions from around the world. The irony for me was that the stigma and attitude that I had as a police officer, and many still do, towards those that use substances, kept me from asking for help, as it does so many of us, and that needs to change. There are so many hidden police service members suffering with substance use disorder, often traumatised by the work that they do, often putting the job before their own needs. If those who are serving in law enforcement can't show compassion and understanding with each other, how can that not spill out into the communities that they serve? We must help each other, support those who are struggling with substance use disorder, and help break down the stigma. We are all in this together.
It's not okay, can't continue this way. It's impacting family, friends, community, impacting the services they provide our community. And most importantly, they're suffering. There's something wrong with that. There's something we need to do about that. Police service members, sworn and unsworn, and their families, they're part of our community and they have the same issues our community has. We need to recognize that the police service community is a community that has its own particular suffering around substance use disorder. We need to start using person-first language, talking about health outcomes, and continuing to nurture ourselves and our community so that everyone can get help when they need it and no one is left behind.